So can you give us your name?
Yes, my name's Shawna Cox.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am a mother, a grandmother, wife and sister, and I am from southern Utah.
Excellent.
We're a business owner. Okay, sorry.
Oh, okay. Now we're here to find out what happened here. So, can you give us the sequence of events of what happened? Start from I guess when they heard about the meeting to when you were I guess until you arrived here today.
The meeting in John Day. There was a meeting set up with the sheriff, was my understanding, and local ranchers that the boys were going to go in and teach them the Constitution. They had been asking them to come out. They do a presentation on the Constitution. It's wonderful. We've had a lot of ranchers that came to the resource center asking for that information. And we shared with them over and again about the Constitution and their rights. And there have been a lot of people who have understood. They came and it's been like the Lord sent them. There's just wonderful people who have come, and so that day, we knew that we were gonna go. They knew that they were gonna go. Usually I don't go with them to these meetings. I had other things that I was doing, and when it came about time to go, there was a family that had showed up a couple of days before that we had met before, and they have a number of children. It's the Sharp family, and we call them the singers because they're just beautiful children, and they sing so eloquently, and they're so great. They're gospel singers, and they bring the Spirit of the Lord with them, and it was just precious. And I tried a few times to get pictures of them during the recording, to record them a few times, because it's just so gorgeous. And but this evening, they had decided that they wanted to go to the meeting, and they were preparing, and they'd gotten all dressed up in their fancy little clothes, and they were ready to go. They were going to go ahead of us. For safety reasons, we had kind of spread people out. They were deciding who was going first and how much time in between, and that was kind of for safety reasons. And they had left ahead of us, probably, I don't know, 20 minutes, half hour, something like that. I don't even recall the exact numbers because I don't know whoever's going. Number one, I wasn't planning to go because there was someone else that was going to go video. But the oldest daughter was still getting ready, and so she didn't leave with the family. So she was still there, and she was going to go with LaVoy and Ryan Bundy. But we couldn't find the person that was supposed to videotape. So I said, okay, I'll go with you, because I didn't want Victoria to be by herself, and she knew me and she knew Ryan, but I wanted to videotape so I could get a good one. I was packing up ready to leave and go home that day, and I said, I'll wait until we get back. So we all loaded in. LaVoy was in the front seat driving. Ryan Payne was security. He was in the right front, riding on the passenger's right side. I was right behind Ryan Payne. Victoria was between myself and Ryan Bundy. And we were traveling along. Victoria got kind of sleepy because I didn't know how far it was from John Day. We were traveling for a little ways, and we were starting up through the mountains. And I was texting and calling people and friends in John Day to say, we're coming, we're going to be there at 6 o'clock. If you want to come, bring your family, whatever, and come and see, because we have this family that's going to sing, and it will be a really neat concert. You need to come at least hear this and see. And so I was doing those things, and Victoria had fallen asleep on Ryan's shoulder. She was tired, and we're coming across this little valley. I looked up and noticed that there was a bunch of vehicles off on a side road. And that's about the time that Ryan and LaVoy also saw it and said, boy, there's a lot of vehicles there. And they were starting to move out onto the road. Behind us, who were supposed to be 15 minutes behind us or so, was Mark, I can never always remember his name, that was driving his Jeep, and he had Ammon, Bundy, and Buddha in with him, who was his security. But they were kind of behind us, not very far, because Mark kept wanting us to hurry and go together and and he kind of kept pushing that. They weren't far behind us. And the vehicles came out of the side road and got right in behind the Jeep. And they suddenly turned on these flashing lights. I couldn't see the flashing lights other than they were shining off the snow, because I was sitting in the back seat behind the passenger side, and there was a camper shell on. There was a lot of things in the back of that LaVoy's truck, and the camper shell was on, so I really couldn't see the vehicles other than when I turned, I could see the Jeep at that time with there's some lights, because I could see them slowing down, and it was kind of in the rear view mirrors where I could see that. And Ryan Payne told LaVoy that they were coming up fast and that he should probably slow down there. It looks like they're pulling us over. LaVoy said, no, we are going to John Day. We have a meeting with the sheriff, and we're got to get to John Day. And they realized that it was a kind of a setup. And so Ryan Payne talks to LaVoy and saying, look, dude, you need to kind of slow down. You better pull over, because they're gaining up on us. So finally, reluctantly, LaVoy slows down and pulls over. And he didn't pull very far over because it's a snowy road. But he slows down and he stops, and Ryan Payne rolls down the window and he sticks both hands out the window and he yells back at I'm guessing whoever it was with the flashing lights, and he yells back at him. It hadn't been 2 seconds probably, and his hands are out, and a shot comes through and misses his hands. I thought it hit him, but it hit the mirror, the little thing between the mirror and the window, and so that was the first shot fired, and he yanked back in really fast, and he goes, wow, they're shooting at us. Well, it was unbelievable, and we're going, whoa, what? And so LaVoy was gonna go on. And when I looked up, and he has on the back of his head, he has a laser pointing on the top of his hat. There's a laser beam on his head. And he leans out in front of the mirror, out of the window, and he puts his hand out, and he has one on the steering wheel, and he yells back at them. And he says, then shoot me, because we're going to see the sheriff. We have a meeting with the sheriff and John Day, so just go ahead and shoot me if that's what you're gonna do. And then, of course, nobody shot him, and he put his head back in, and Ryan Payne decides to jump out the door. He gets out the door, and I guess they arrested him or whatever they were doing. I don't know. I couldn't see what happened because LaVoy decided we're going forward. They did say, I have to say, that they did say, Ryan said there's women in the truck. And he says, somebody from the back says, tell the women to get out. If they want to get out, tell them to get out. LaVoy says, if you guys want out, then get out. Well, really my door was still locked. But Victoria was freaked out already because we'd already seen a bullet, and she said, I'm not getting out. When my mother instinct kicks in, and I said, I'm not leaving her. So I guess we're here. And we slunk down, and he took off. So he's flying down the road, and I'm saying, LaVoy, do you think how far do you think we'll make it before they blow out the tires, because they're coming up fast? And he just barreled down, and I tried to dial out to tell somebody what was going on, and it was right in a spot that we had just lost. There was no service. None of us had cell service. Then we knew we were set up, because we could get no service whatsoever. We just had it. And now we had nothing. So I pulled up my camera quick, and I put it on record, and I'm recording what's happening. And just about, it hadn't been very far up the road, because suddenly LaVoy hits I don't know if he hit the brakes or we hit the slush, but we slide up, and I can see the ice and snow slushing up over, and we went swerving around, and then I could see the vehicles that were in the road. And we got stopped, and now we're stuck. and immediately there are lasers everywhere, all over, and LaVoy jumps out. He flings open the door, and he throws his hands in the air, and he jumps out and starts running through this deep snow. We can see him, and I have it on video, and we're just freaking out because there are bullets flying. He's yelling, "Go ahead and shoot me," and his hands are out. "Go ahead and shoot me, go ahead and shoot me." I honestly believe that he was trying to draw fire away from us. LaVoy is the father of many girls, and he's very protective. And I think he was trying to draw the fire from us. So I can't see him very good because I still got the camera up. We're still slunk down because there's bullets flying. They're breaking out the windows. They're shooting all the windows out, and we can't get out. We're pinned down. And Victoria puts her head up. She's trying to watch him, and I'm trying to keep her down because I can see the laser because it was on Ryan. We had pushed Ryan down, but he could still see out the window, and so could Victoria. And they were watching, and they're going, "No, they shot him, he's down, they shot him again, they shot him over, and he's dead." And she kept screaming, "I'm an EMT," and of course the window was open, and by then, and she kept screaming, "I'm an EMT, and let me help him, and let me get out and cover him up," but you can't hear anything because I'm sure they probably couldn't hear her because we were dodging lasers and bullets that were coming through the windows, and I'm trying to hold her down because I see the laser on her knee, and I'm trying to push her knee down. I'm trying to push his hat down. We're trying to keep away from the lasers that are coming in, and they had no intention to let up on us. They had already killed him, and I'm still videoing, but you can hear the noise. You can hear everybody, what we're saying. You can hear the things that are happening. And in the window next to my head, as I see, we have been hit. We got hit 4 or 5 or more times on that window, and it didn't break the window. That was totally amazing to me. But we were sitting there praying. That's what we were doing. We said, we got to pray. And so we're offering a prayer of protection. Please, Father, protect us. And it went on for a long time. It seemed like 5 to 10 minutes. I don't know how long it was, but there was no way for us to get out. They just wouldn't let up. And so finally, she throws herself across Ryan. She sticks her hands out as far as she can reach, and she screams, "Stop, stop, stop!" And I start yelling, "Stop!" And finally, they quit. And then they said, "Tell Ryan to get out." Or they said, tell the man to get out. I don't think they knew that it was Ryan Bundy. And he got out, and he said, as he got up, he said, "I got hit in the shoulder." And it was in his right shoulder. And so then she had looked at it and said, "Yeah, you're hit." And then he got out, and immediately they backed him up and took him, and then she came out. And then they arrested her. And then I had to drop the stuff I had in my hands, the camera, my phone, and papers, and get out with my hands up like they told us. And then they arrested us. And as I was coming out of the truck, her and I both were walking by, and we could see LaVoy laying dead in the snow. And he was face up, which was really odd to me because he didn't leave that direction. He left towards them, and now he was back facing the truck, and he was laying back in the snow, and his feet were deep down into the snow, and he had his hands still out like this, and he had the left hand was laying out, and the right hand was just here, kind of over by his chest, and his hat was still on. It was terrible. And we walked over and sat down. They had cuffed us, set us on the ground, and as I was walking, they had asked me, "Is anybody else in the vehicle?" And I said, "No, I'm it. That's it. That's the last one. There's no one else in the vehicle." And they waited till I got to the road. Then they opened fire, and they continued to pelt that truck, and they broke the window where I'd been sitting. they just blasted it. See, I forgot. When after they broke out windows too, they started shooting in gas. They were shooting in, I don't know what kind of gas it is. I saw the little canisters, they're like silver round like this, and they would explode, and it was like a gas, and it was smoke, and we couldn't breathe. It was hurting our nose and our mouth, and I had a down coat on. So I had my nose into my collar, and she had her nose into the side of my coat. We were trying to breathe because it was really difficult. And that was before they had quit firing. But after we got out, and they just kept blasting the truck, and then we started saying, "You murdered him in cold blood. You murdered him in cold blood. He didn't have a gun. He wasn't doing anything." Before I made a statement, I thought he might have had his pistol strapped to his side, because often he carried his pistol. But every time we got into a meeting, they didn't ever take the pistols in, so or any of their arms. So I don't know if he had a gun, but I don't think he had a gun. I'm sure they were in the vehicle, but on him, and he never pulled one, because it made no sense to me that if he was going to shoot them, why wouldn't he take the gun from the car or point at him or do something? But he didn't. He went out with nothing in his hands, and his hands wide open. He had no intention to shoot anybody.
Now, how many shots do you think that the agents and police fired?
Oh, hundreds. I'm telling you, it just didn't let up for a long time. So I didn't know, but I forgot something else. As we were walking away from the truck and we saw LaVoy, we looked up, and there was all these men that were coming out from behind the trees. There was I bet you there was 24 of them. And they had the long guns, and some of them had caps with these little like binoculars that flipped down off of them on them. It was really insane, and they were coming out from behind the trees. It was like this army battlefield. And when we got back to the road, and they had put the cuffs on us and set us down, and then finally they took us over, and we sat in the back of a van with the door open, in the back end, and we continued to tell them that they have killed an innocent man, and we felt sorry for them, and we will pray for them, and we began to sing because she had been singing. I was trying to calm her down. I told her, I said, "You've witnessed something that you'll never forget for the rest of your life, and you need to tell people. You need to tell the truth, what really took place today, because it was murder." And she knew that. We all knew that it was murder. And so we got in the van. We're sitting in the back of the van, and we were there for a long, long time. She didn't have a very warm coat on, and I had my jacket, but she didn't have a very warm coat on, and she was quite cold. And so I was trying to stay close to her and keep her warm. And then they looked at Ryan and said, "You've been shot, Ryan Bundy." And so they called an ambulance, and then the ambulance came, and during all this time, and so then they put him in the ambulance, and were doing whatever they were doing. I just remember saying, "Can we cut your shirt?" and whatever, and then so he stayed with them, and like I said, it was a long time. We were there a long time, and we just sang song after song, and we talked, and then finally they brought up this like a van kind of thing, and they put us into the back of this van. So she and I were loaded in the very back, and then we drove down the road, and we came to the Jeep, just past the Jeep, and there we saw Ammon and Buddha and Mark and Ryan Payne, and they loaded them into the vehicle. So all of us were in the vehicle now, and we had to sit there for hours. And I don't understand why. We were there probably for about 5 hours. When we were sitting in the back of the van, I asked them if we were under arrest. And they kept saying, "No, you're just being detained." I said, "For what? Are we being, so what are you charging? Are you going to charge us with something?" We didn't have any idea. And when we got into the van and everybody was in the van, we kept saying, "Are they charging you? Are we under arrest?" They kept still saying, "Nope, you're just being detained." And there was about 40 of these people in their garb, in their I don't know what you call it, battle rattle, whatever they call it. But anyway, they were all down the road and they were all trying to get it together. And it was almost like they were trying to formulate some reason that they picked us up, or what they were going to charge us with, or whatever it was going to be. I don't know, because it took a long, long time, hours. And finally, I'm not going to tell you that part. People had to go to the bathroom. It was so bad. It was awful. And they wouldn't let us out of the car. It was terrible. And they went, so finally when we got back into the vehicle, they took us back to Burns, and they were driving like madmen. They were like 80 miles an hour, all just rushing back into Burns, and they have all the lights on the inside. And as soon as we hit town, they turned off all the lights so people couldn't see who we were, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how they planned that, but anyway, they turned off the lights when we were going through town. And then they circle around to the hospital. They dropped the ambulance off, which I think I must have been for Ryan's sake. I'm not sure. And then they take us outside of Burns, and they take us to this little rest area, and all these vehicles show up, these SUVs, different cars and stuff. And they took us out individually and put us in different vehicles. So we weren't together any longer. And I was really worried about Victoria. And I kept saying, okay, so where's she going? What are you doing with her? Maybe we should stay together. Why are you separating us then? And she's going to be taken. She's okay. Da 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 da. I was worried about her. And the next thing, we're all in a caravan traveling away, and one vehicle peels off, and I don't know where they went, and I don't know I didn't know who was in the vehicle. In fact, maybe 2 vehicles left. I'm not sure, because being in the caravan, and I'm in the back seat with darkened out windows, with an officer guy with me, and then somebody driving, and we travel a long ways. I know we got to Burns. Not Burns, Bend. I'm not geographically challenged here. I've never even been in the state, so I don't even know where we are. So we went to Bend, and then we went to, and then they said, oh, we got another couple hours or something, and I'm saying, okay. And then it turns out we're going to be all night. We're going to Portland, and we are driving 80 miles an hour through towns that have 35-mile-an-hour zones, and we're just like barreling through here, and I'm going, so how is it that we drive 80 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zones? I mean, I don't get why we're doing this. And they ended up taking us to I don't know what it was called. All I know is that there was a lot of people. They had a big roll-up gate like a garage, and they brought us in cars 2 at a time and let us out of the vehicles. We did, along the way, they did slow down at one point, and there was other people that they were bringing in. I remember them saying that they had picked up Pete Santilli, because I saw him get out of one car and got put into another one, and he was talking. They kept saying, he just never shuts up. That's what they said. And I know Pete, and that was obviously him, and they put him in the car, and then he was in our caravan. So we ended up with, by the time we got there was more people than I knew, and we were just gaining people, but I never could find Victoria. I was worried when we stopped at the bathroom. Everywhere I stopped, I kept saying, we only stopped one time, and then we got there, and I said, so where is Victoria? Well, nobody seemed to know what happened to Victoria. And then we get together into this van. They put us all in this van, and there's no Mark either. And the only thing that happened with Mark was when we got in the vehicle, and Victoria and I were in the back, Mark was sitting in front of us in the club wagon, whatever the heck you call it. It has a lot of seats. And Mark was really mad at Victoria because she was kind of crying and really talking fast, and but she just been through a trauma, and he kept hollering at her. I just thought he was very unkind. And I had to keep it. And I kept saying to him, knock it off, because everybody deals differently with trauma, and just leave her alone. She's just a young girl, and leave her alone. And so now I haven't seen Mark or Victoria when we get into the paddy wagon, or whatever the heck you want to call this caravan thing. And I haven't seen them, and I'm worried about her. And they took us into the federal prison over there, I guess. I don't know what it is, whatever it is. Anyway, they took us there. I've never been to these places, so I don't know. And they made us take off our things and put shackles on our feet, and oh, I had shackles on when we got into the other car, because I remember that I couldn't climb up into it because I have a broken foot. I had a real hard time trying to climb into it.
Now, there's no warrant for your arrest, and no charges have been levied. They just...
No, we had no idea. We had no idea even why we're here. We had not even been charged with anything. When I was in the car coming, when they put us in separate vehicles, the one man that was sitting next to me in the back, and the officer, said to me, started to read me, or he wanted me to sign this paper. He says, "Can you read this and sign it?" And I said, "You took my, I don't have any glasses and I can't see it. I can't read it, so I can't sign anything I can't read." And he says, "Well, let me tell you what it is." And so he put a recorder. And he said, and he started to read me like and I said, "Is that the Miranda rights?" I mean, I know what Miranda rights. And I said, "So does that mean we're under arrest?" "Well, yes." I said, "What are we charged for?" Something about conspiracy. I have no idea what he's talking about. I have no idea.
Seems a little vague.
Yeah, and I'm going, so I didn't sign the paper. He just recorded that I knew that that's what it was. And all the way there, he kept trying to get me to talk about things, because he said, you don't have to talk, but anything you say, everything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, blah, blah, blah. And so I didn't want to talk to him about anything except the Constitution. So I'm trying to teach him the Constitution all the way there as much as I can. Then I'm singing. Then I just keep singing hymns. And I said, "Well, if you don't give me a radio, then you're going to have to hear my songs, because whatever, because that's a lot of hours." And so that's the way it was for hours till we got to there. They took all of our things. They took my wedding ring off. They took everything and put us in a cell. It took a long time through the night. They put me up in a room. I was there probably for a few hours before they brought us back down. I might have been there 3 hours, 4 hours max. And then they brought us back down, and they took us in, that we were supposed to go see a federal judge. I was sitting in it, and then all the guys were back in together, and then of course there was just myself, so they keep me separated from them. But we're in the same elevator, in the same van that moves us a half a block with about 3,000 officers and a million lights, and everything stopped. It was like, a really great parade for a half a block. It was really crazy. And then we talked to some lady that's something to do with the court. I just remember her name, but I don't really know how she represents. Something about she can't represent everybody. I mean, we have to have a panel and figure out an attorney and all that stuff. But anyway, that's what happened. And after that, we don't know much of anything, because we don't know what's going on in the outside world. We don't know if anybody knows what happened. We don't know what happened at the meeting, if people actually showed up. I did learn all that stuff later. In fact, last night, there was a lot more information that was given to me last night that did confirm that there were between 150 and 300 people that showed up at the meeting, and the family got to the meeting, and there was nobody to teach the Constitution, and nobody seemed to know, but they did hear. Because there had been a news reporter from ABC that was 10 minutes behind us. He was going to be ahead of us. He had been down at the resource center with us, and he left. He was going to be ahead of us, but because of something he had to do, he ended up being 10 minutes behind us. So he only got to the end of it, and he said he only got to the first vehicle, and he got some of that shot, but nobody could hear or see, because we were up around the bend. They could not hear the shots, and they couldn't see anything. So whatever Mark said, he has no idea, because he was not there. And all of them stated that they could not hear or see any of the shooting, because it was up around the bend, and because of maybe the snow and the trees or whatever, and we were probably a mile or two from them, and they could hear nothing, and so they didn't know.
What happened to the footage from your camera?
The FBI the feds still have it. They got my stuff out of it. They got my phone. I know they do, because they took they took my text that I had had during that day, and it was at court. So I know that they got my stuff. And they, like I said, they wouldn't even give me back anything. They wouldn't even give me back my reading glasses. I asked 20 times, and everybody, even the judge said, give her back her glasses, because I couldn't even read. They gave me these court papers, and I can't even read them. I mean, I just need reading glasses. You know, when you get a little older, you have a problem. Anyway, whatever. So, and that's, so I was in there for 3 days back and forth, and they put me in the cell, and it's not a pleasant experience, I'll tell you, but it was crazy. I couldn't even get to the phone. They only let me out like once a day, and I made, the only call I could make was when I had a chance, and I had to have somebody come and help me to read a number so I could even try. And then guess what? My husband wasn't home. He was in the house. Anyway, it was crazy. So I didn't know if anybody knew. I don't know what anybody knew, and now it was like 3 days. And then I guess my attorney had contacted my family, and so they did know some things, and they were working on other things. And so what day did I get out? The day before yesterday. And the day before yesterday, I had gone into court. My attorney was working to have me released so I could go home. I really needed to go home. The problem was my driver's license, everything I have is in my car, still at the resource center. I had one credit card on me. They took all that. I had no way to get anywhere, and they took the money I had that was in my pocket. I think there's like 33 bucks or something. They took that, but I had nothing. No toothbrush, no hairbrush, no nothing. I had nothing. And so the judge said when we went in, my attorney was hoping that I would be released. My sister flew up from Phoenix to come and get me, so I'd have a way home. But and they were saying they could probably help me get home. But I said, you can't fly me home. I have no ID, and they have my keys to my car. So how was anybody going to get it? It was crazy. And so then so I left probably the courtroom around 5 o'clock, 4:30-ish. I don't know exact times, but, and then I went in. We just barely got there in time to eat. I just was eating my dinner when the jailer came and said, what size do you wear? They're releasing you. The judge said they weren't going, the prosecuting attorney said it was okay to release me. My attorney said it was okay to release me. The judge said they would release me at the time that the people at the refuge left, because there were some people still holding out or something. And I said to my attorney, well, how long do I know that's going to be? Because I'm not in charge. How would I know how long they're going to be there, or what's happening? So how is that based upon? Anyway, I went back to the cell. I was eating. They came and asked for my clothes size. About 30 minutes later, they came and they got me, and they took me out and downstairs, took the things I had on, the gel stuff, gave me some clothes out of their little stash, something. And I kept asking for my clothes and my coat, and they said, well, the feds haven't released it. They took it over there, and they handed me a little card that had $50 on it and let me out the door. That was it. And I didn't know how I was going to call anybody, because they have a phone there that calls your attorney, that you can call an attorney on, but I can't exactly use this card. I don't even know how to do that. There's a pay phone there. I don't know anybody's numbers. Everybody has cell numbers. How am I supposed? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Anyway, I called my attorney. She was able to get hold of my sister, and came and got me in about an hour or so. And then we took off, and I was headed home. I had a tragedy that happened at home. On our way there, we got a phone call about my son-in-law, who just was in a horrible fire. My daughter called me, and their shop was burning down, and she was freaking out, and the kids, and my attorney had called her and had called my house and told my husband that if I was coming home, they had to remove all weapons out of my house. So he had taken them all to my daughter's house, to the shop, and her husband and the family were at the shop that night. He was working on his backhoe, and the kids had gone up and gone back to bed, and they were awakened by the fire engine, and I guess that shed was engulfed. Her husband was sitting by the fireplace and the wood stove, and must have fallen asleep. It ignited something, and then it blew something up, and then all of a sudden, when she was trying to get him out, all the bullets were going off, and it was horrible. She couldn't get in, and my son-in-law was killed, and I can't even get home. So she's hysterical, and I'm saying, I'm on my way. We're 3 hours out, and I get a call from my attorney. He says, turn around, come back. I said, I can't, I have to go home. She said, did they give you any release papers? I said, they didn't tell me anything, they just put me on the street. She says, you have to come back, because they didn't put an ankle bracelet or whatever it was on or whatever. And she says, I'll help you in the morning. I knew she couldn't do it Saturday. He was going to come to work till Monday. So reluctantly, we had to turn around and come back, because she said that they would probably pick us up if we didn't. We came back and have been sitting waiting till Monday morning to get whatever our release papers are. I had no idea. There was no guidance, stipulations, nothing. So at this point, we've heard nothing. So we're here waiting.
Jeez. Whew. Well, let me ask you a couple more questions here about the incident. Now, did you hear shots fired before LaVoy reached his hand over? Did they shoot first when after he had gone out of the truck? Did they fire before he had moved his hand? Was there shots fired?
Absolutely. There was all kinds of bullets going. He had his hands out, and they were shooting while he was walking towards them with his hands out.
Okay. Also, there was reports that there may have been a Fed on the inside, maybe a double agent. Do you have any
that's
thoughts on that?
That's why we think it was maybe this Mark person, because he was so anxious about getting people there, and suddenly, when we were in the van, he was worried about his, quote, $60,000 Jeep that he kept throwing up there, and was making sure the Jeep was still there. And when we get there, he's not there. And then we find out later that he's back with his Jeep. He got released. There was no charges. When we got handed those pieces of paper, he wasn't on there. In fact, if you look, LaVoy Finicum's name's not on there either. So there was no warrant before this thing went down.
Now, did you see the police or any agents filming this while this was going on? Did you see any cameras?
I didn't see any cameras. That doesn't mean there's not cameras. I did see that there was an officer. Specifically, there was one man there that was carrying a rifle, and I said, well, how come you don't have a camera on your hat? And he said, well, I got a flashlight. Well, I wasn't looking at that. There's kind of a little strip of like I don't know what you call it, but for a place that you might put a camera, like a GoPro on your head, but there's no cameras on. There was no camera on it. And I asked him, so you lost your camera or what? And he said, no, this is just a flashlight. I said, no, the other thing in the middle of your head. So that's all I ever saw. I didn't see anybody actually with any cameras.
Okay, I think we've about covered it there. Does anyone else have any other questions?
The question I have regarding is when we're looking at the tape with the drone comes around behind the agent. The first thing we saw was the gentleman get out of LaVoy's vehicle. The second thing we saw was a girl with long dark hair that I didn't recognize. Is that
was Victoria. Mm-hmm.
Then we see you coming last, and you're sort of trying to get through the snow and going sideways. When we see LaVoy, the drone is pointing down at LaVoy. When he gets out, he has his hands straight up, and then all of a sudden, it's like he got shot in the right side, it looked like, as he kind of reaches down to his side. And then as he flips around, he's looking at the guy coming out of the trees, pointing the gun straight at him, and you can see the shock look on LaVoy's face. Did LaVoy reach down to his right side because he'd just been shot with the first shot?
That I can't answer you because I didn't see that part.
But then we see him looking right at the guy who's pointing the gun at him like he's in shock. Because I remember LaVoy saying many, many times, you never point a gun at someone unless you're intending to use it. And his hands were up in the air when it looks like he got shot the first time in the side. Your instinct is to go down and grab your side when you get shot because it hurts, right? So if his hand dropped down a little bit, was it because he was in pain on his side? Then the guy shot him, we saw him go flat, right back on his back on the ground. Okay?
That's I saw the video later, just in fact yesterday or whatever day I got it. I did see that video. It only made sense to me because I did get more information since that time. It only made sense to me that he was going away from the vehicle towards them, and then I see him turn and come back, and that's when I see him go down from the video. Right, after he's already been shot. And I thought he had, and this is my own assumption, I thought that they had hit him and that's why his hand was going down, because they had hit him.
Right.
And then he turns and comes back towards the truck and they shoot him again. You can see him from the side, and then he lays back into the snow and he's dead. Now, since then, yesterday I learned new information that in fact he only had 3 bullet holes, and they were all from the back.
Now, the other question I have that has to do with that, we see the drone coming behind the agent who's kneeling to LaVoy's left side, and there's 3 other agents standing, but this agent's kneeling. We see the agent reach under his jacket and pull out a wallet, and we see his right hand go out like he's handing a man's wallet to another agent. Now, the jacket that LaVoy was wearing is like with that sheepskin type, and there are no pockets on the inside, so you can't put a 9mm inside your jacket because those jackets are the fake sheepskin, and there are no pockets sewn into those men's type of winter jackets. So we know, number one, he couldn't have a 9mm inside the jacket. There's no way he could have had one in his belt buckle. If you look, another agent is coming off the pavement, crossing in front of the black truck, and he's carrying what looks like a 9mm in his right hand with the muzzle pointed down. He walks over to the other agents, including the one kneeling to the left of LaVoy's body. He somewhat crouches down, and they're messing around like with his hands in the jacket. He gets up and walks away back to the pavement, and he doesn't have that same gun in his hand any longer. I thought that was weird.
I didn't see any of that. I'm sorry. I don't know.
The drone was showing it.
Okay.
A couple more questions. Now, LaVoy was often seen with his cowboy pistol. Was he known
Right.
to carry any other types of pistols? Like a 9mm, or was he pretty much a cowboy gun kind of a guy?
Mostly he had the cowboy, the gun on his side. You know, I don't really know. I just know that I've saw him and that's what I assumed, that he had that on. But actually, I don't know, because I didn't see him when he got into the truck. I was one of the last ones in. Like I said, I went at the last minute, so I didn't really see. I wasn't paying attention to if they had any weapons. I didn't see any weapons.
Okay. And how about the duration of your film? How long did that last? How long did you have that running?
From the beginning of, well, I was trying to get it up, so I don't know exactly when it took. You know, when it has to say record. I don't know exactly when it took, other than I know that it was on when we were stopped the second time, and I have him for sure as his head, as he's getting out of the truck. That's where I have him. And then everything else is what's going on in the truck and what's going on around us during that whole time of the stand-up. I do not know how long that was. It seemed like a very long time. And so that would have been my recording up until the time that I had to get out of the vehicle.
Okay.
And then I turn it off and drop it.
Okay, good. Is there anything else that you would like to say and tell people out there?
People just have to know the truth. And that's the truth. We were witnesses to a murder. The man was totally innocent and armed. He never went after them, never was aggressive. He believed in what he was doing, as we all do, into restoring the Constitution. And America has to do that. They have to restore the Constitution. Whatever calling you have and whatever the Lord tells you to do, it's your responsibility. It's the media's responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility. They have to feel it in their heart. You have to do what the Lord tells you to do, because we know that the Lord has been over us all the time and watching over us. He saved us. We know that He saved us. We truly believe, all three of us that were still alive, know that our Lord watched over us and protected us, that we might tell the truth, because they had no intention to let us out. It was more than obvious. They had no intention of anybody walking away.
Well, God bless you. Thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you, guys.